Redditors who work or have worked in retail, what's your I'm about to lose my crap moment you had with a customer? This wasn't an incident that made me angry, but rather I was going to lose my crap in the sense this interaction made me feel like I was losing my mind. I worked at a weird Starbucks that was drive-through and walk-up only. There was no indoor seating. There were signs on either side of the walk-up window displaying a menu with a photo of each product that was listed. If I was working at the walk-up window I couldn't see the menu, even if I leaned out the window as much as I could. One day a woman came to the store, asked me a question about parking or something, and then ordered. She pointed at the menu and said, "Could I have that one?" "I'm sorry, which drink are you pointing at?" She points again. "That one." "I can't see the menu from here. Could you tell me what drink it is?" "That one." "I really can't see the menu. Can you tell me what it says?" "That one." What the frick? Maybe she doesn't speak English. No, she asked me something in perfect English earlier. Maybe she's embarrassed to pronounce the drink name wrong. Maybe she's illiterate. What color is it? That one. Do you want a hot or cold drink? That one. Do you want something with coffee? Or maybe something sweet? That one. Did you want a frappuccino? That one. It went on like this for a while until I gave up and just rang her up for a grand iced caramel macchiato. She seemed perfectly happy with it when I handed it to her. I worked at a department store. I was in charge of the truck and stocking. Usually this included making the department I worked look good, folding clothes, straightening stacks, sizing the clothing racks, etc. I'd just finished the juniors department when I turn around and see so many clothes on the floor. There was a teenager picking up folded shirts to look at them and then she was just throwing them on the ground. It was a particularly bad day for me as all but 2 of our truck team had called in. I didn't have time for this crap at all. I politely asked her to stop throwing the merchandise on the floor. It's fine if she wanted to just set the stuff back onto the tables, but seriously stop throwing it on the ground. This turned into her proceeding to throw piles of folded clothes on the ground, picking up hanging items and just tossing them. So I asked where her parents were. She refused to answer. So I paged overhead asking for the parent of said teen. I described her clothing and hair to come to the juniors department, as their daughter had something amazing surprise for them. It wasn't long before a lady walked over with a smile on her face, and then it just fell into the most pee-off, disappointed, disgusted look. She looked at me, then her daughter. The girl tried to say I was the one that did this and was trying to blame her for being bad at my job. Her mom was having none of that. Mom apologized profusely for her daughter's behavior and asked me to show her how we folded the clothes. I tried to tell her not to worry about it. I just wanted her kid to stop. She insisted. Sony showed her the fold we used on shirts and the ones we used on pants. I started picking things up and noticed that the mom had gone to work telling her daughter how to fold everything. Eventually she told me I could go do something else. They weren't leaving until her daughter fixed everything. I had other things to do, but I came back later and they were finishing up. Daughter was in tears, saying she was humiliated and that this wasn't her job. Mom just kind of stood there chuckling and said, "It's your job right now. You make a mess, you pick it up. Rules don't stop at our front door. They apply to anywhere you go." Started off as one of the worst experiences but ended on a high note, for me at least. I wish more parents would teach their kids this. I've heard so many tell their kids to put stuff wherever, because the employees will clean it up. This crazy woman was already a known problem customer in our store. Being one of the managers and a longtime retail veteran, I usually helped her when she came in. One particular day, she came in wanting to return a clearance item she'd bought 3 months ago. I knew she knew our return policy and pointed out the final sale note on her crumpled receipt. The day she'd bought the item in question had not been a fun encounter to begin with. She started screaming that she should be allowed to return it because she has cancer, and I have no idea how hard that was. I nursed my grandfather through stage 4 lung cancer, so had some idea, but simply gave her calm reassurances. I did stick to the policy though. Side note, she'd been a nightmare long before she became ill and probably should have been banned already for some of her antics. After more back and forth, she asks that I'll let her just exchange it. as she's giving me a headache. I agree, inform her that the exchanged item would not be able to be returned or exchanged and reminded her of how much credit she had. She comes back with another item and slams it onto my counter. Lo and behold, there's $1 and change difference between her original item and the new one. She's furious, shouting that she shouldn't have to pay it and don't I know she's suffering. I firmly insist she coughs up the difference as that's how exchanges work. She responded by pulling a fistful of change out of her purse and throwing it at my face. A nickel bounced off of my glasses. I saw red but calmly counted up the change, slid the excess across the counter, which she threw onto the floor, and she stormed out. There had been a young couple in line behind her who promptly approached the counter and asked if I was okay. The head manager took over the register and sent me to the back to calm down. When I came out, she told me that the crazy woman had caused a ruckus at our sister store a few doors down and was now, finally, banned from both stores. I quit the store and took a job in an office a few weeks later. Great answer. Sorry you had to deal with people like that. I'm glad you got a new job and hope you enjoy it more. I worked at Target in the clothing department for about 3 years. One night I was on the closing shift, 6 PM to 11 PM. If you work the closing shift, you spend pretty much the entire shift zoning your assigned area. For me, that meant folding clothes for 5 hours. This particular night I was assigned the women's area, which is the largest. Around 8 PM a woman, probably in her late 40s, approached me. She asked if I could help her find maxi skirts. I happily walked her to where they were. She then asks my opinion on which skirts I liked the best. Again, I happily told her. She grabs every single print we offer in the skirt. Then she asks me to come back to the fitting room with her. I obliged. When we get back to the fitting room she wants me to stand outside the dressing room as she tries the skirts on. She comes out after each one and spends about 5 minutes going back and forth on does this look good, is it the right size, I don't like it, actually I do like it. She asked me to fetch different sizes for different prints. She also has an attitude while she's doing all of this, telling me that it's my job to help her. This went on until about 9:30. Finally, I think she's done. She now has about 20-25 skirts in her dressing room. She leaves them all sprawled out in the room and proceeds to tell me that she doesn't want any of them. Then she tells me to have a good night and leaves, leaving her mess behind. It took everything in me to smile back and to say have a good night as well. Also, about 2 years later, my cousin was working at an office and some lady came in there. When my cousin was telling me about the lady and how she was a pain in the butt who kept going back and forth on things and was being so rude, we discovered it was the same lady I had helped before. So apparently this is the norm for her. She sounds like a psychopath looking for attention. Congrats to you for still acting professional. Worked at Kmart, sporting goods and toys to be specific, during my high school and early college years, and people would often pull the I found this product under this tag for a lower price, so does I mean I get it at that price. Well, this one woman did this and would not let up. She had a football that rung up $30 but wanted it at the price of that tag where she found the product for $5, which was a fishing lure. I told her that I cannot price match based on that. What can you price match based on? I tell her, so you won't price match this even though it was sitting there under the wrong tag? No, I cannot, I am sorry. I've had it done before. I've seen it done before, so I know it can be done. Explain again how the price match policy works. We go round and round for about 10 minutes before she pulls the "let me speak to your manager." At this point I am pretty angry but reserved. I call my manager and then leave briefly to go get him and tell him about the customer and their complaint. We walk back to the counter and she tells him the same things she's been telling me. He says sorry about that mom and does a price override and gives it to her for the $5 after payment. The manager walks back. The customer gives me a snarky frick you look and walks away with her purchase. Frick you Bruce. Frick you B. I was just doing my job and then I ended up looking like the butthole. No wonder Kmart failed. That crap pisses me off to no end. A manager should never undermine their employees like that. Had a woman come in and request a large drink in a small cup. I asked her to repeat that. She reiterated she wanted a large drink, but in a small cup. I told her that wasn't possible. This went on and on. her yelling that it wasn't that difficult to understand. I'm trying to tell her that they are different volumes. Eventually I filled up a large, got a small cup and dared her while pouring the large in until it overflowed and went all over the counter. 100% the only appropriate response. Guy slammed a hot water bottle down on the counter and loudly exclaimed, with wife nodding in agreement behind him, that he'd put cold water in it 3 hours ago and it still wasn't hot. She's nodding in agreement. Lol. Two dumb as heck people found each other and I bet they had a few dumb as heck kids. What a love story. Former Blockbuster employee here. There was a woman who not only absolutely refused to pay her late fees, which were legitimate, she became so enraged that she threw her stack of tapes at me, hitting me in the face. She then marched around the store and knocked every cassette, DVD, and cover box that she could reach off of the shelves, some with her hands, some by swinging her purse, while shouting obscenities. My manager got on the phone and called the police. When angry lady finished trashing the store, she demanded to know which cars out on the parking lot my co-worker and I drove. When we refused to say, she spit at us and knocked all of the candy shelf talkers etc. off of the counters, and began stomping on them. I don't know if it was divine intervention, or luck, or what, but as angry lady was spitting and stomping on the candy, another woman walked into the store. This woman just happened to be my next door neighbor, and a police officer. Officer neighbor lady approached angry lady and identified herself as a police officer. As she attempted to ask what the problem was, angry lady shouted, "Where's your frickin' badge?" B. Spit at officer neighbor lady, and attempted to flee. Officer neighbor lady grabbed angry lady before she could reach the door and a scuffle ensued. In a blink, officer neighbor lady kicked angry lady's legs out from under her and she went down like a sack of bricks. I'll never forget the smack sound her face made when it hit the concrete floor. Satisfying. While she held angry lady down, officer neighbor lady asked me to go get her purse, out of which she pulled a pair of handcuffs. As the cuffs locked around her wrists, it was then that angry lady finally realized what trouble she was in. She began to sob and wail loudly. She promised to make nice, pay her fee, and begged to be let go. Two uniformed officers arrived and hauled angry lady away, screaming and crying like a lunatic. Turned out angry lady was actually the mother of a student at my school. I was in high school at the time. He avoided me for the rest of the year. Felt terrible for the guy. We found out later that angry lady was not under the influence of any alcohol or drugs. She was just a volatile, childish butthole. She was banned from every corporate Blockbuster store. Oh, and the late fee she owed $12. This is my favorite story so far. $12 was just the nail in the coffin. I had to take a break from laughing. IDK if this counts as retail, but I was an intern at an aquarium, and while working at the touch tank, a kid swallowed a handful of sand. I told his mother, and she told me that he was only 4. He proceeded to swallow another handful of sand. When I was a kid, I worked at a fast food restaurant and opened on the weekends. Toward the end of the breakfast rush, some guy comes through with a huge order. We were getting ready for lunch and didn't have anything he wanted already made, so it took us a few minutes to get it together. He starts cussing at me that he is late for church and I need to hurry the heck up. I explain that I will get his food out as soon as the cooks are done, but that's not good enough for him. I finally reached my limit and told him he should probably leave the house earlier next Sunday. Dude freaking throws hot coffee on me through the drive-through window. My manager sees this and asks me how much their food is. He then pulls that amount out of the register, throws it at the man, and tells him to get the frick out of his drive-through. The guy threatens to call the cops, and my boss told him they were already on the way and he needed to leave if he didn't want to get arrested for assault. I still wonder if he made it to church on time. Obviously hypochondriac woman comes to my till wearing surgical gloves with her things in a bag. States she can't give her things to me because of money hands with a look of absolute disgust before reaching round and scanning her items. She then says she's paying in card and would like cash back and I explain she needs to put her card in the machine and not use contactless if she would. She says yes but then still pays via contactless and is then completely shocked when I explain she can't have cash back unless she makes another transaction with her card in, as I'd explained. She then had a massive go about how I should have told her before. Kinda glad she stormed out of the shop so quickly and I didn't have a chance to properly lose my crap. I wonder what she would have done had you been able to give her the cash since she was afraid of money hands. I worked in a gas station where we had a notorious customer we referred to as Can Guy. Every month our station put coupons in the paper for 1.00 of free gas. 1 coupon per customer per visit. Can Guy would collect these coupons and then come park his car on the adjacent street and then go post up on one of our pumps and get gas. $1 at a time. He'd pump $1, come in and give us the coupon and go walk out to the sidewalk, off the property, and then turn around and do it again, for hours. As a pump attendant we have to approve every pump by pushing a button. So every 3 minutes for hours at a time we'd be stuck standing at the till, doing the same transaction over and over. The longest I clocked him doing this for was 2.5 hours. Corporate added an addendum to the coupons because of him pulling that crap. I ain't even mad at this. This is next level commitment. Some of our freezers went down and we had to pull stuff out to put it in the storage freezer. We had pallets and trying to get everything done fast. It was a whole ordeal. I was cold, wet, annoyed. This lady in an electric car that smelled like crap got mad because we were in the way and said, "I'm so tired of the laziness in this store. This is balls," and before I could stop myself, I just yelled, "Well, you smell like crap." I'm so surprised I did not get into trouble. I would completely understand if I did. Smack. Home run. Threw a pile of jackets at my feet and exclaimed, "Now you have something to freaking do." I was mid-transaction on the till. While working at Lowe's, a guy tried returning an item with no receipt. Turns out that item is only sold by Home Depot, so I told the customer we couldn't give him a store credit. He lost his crap saying he's 100% sure he bought it at a hardware store. Yup, not this one. Wouldn't take no for an answer, so I brought up the item on the computer and showed him it was sold by Home Depot. Then showed him our website where the item didn't exist. He got pee and mid-Saturday afternoon yells, "Are you freaking stupid?" I wanted to punch him right in his mouth. I feel your pain. Worked Lowe's customer service for 5 years. I always loved them. My brother didn't need these 20 saw blades for a project yet. Sure. A girl asked me to get her a Buzz Lightyear toy from a shelf. Done. 5 minutes later her bitchy parents are complaining that I gave her a boy toy. Personal feelings and rage aside, I tried to de-escalate with, "Yes, I suppose Buzz is a boy and a toy never got written up so fast in my life." Dang. One of my fav toys when I was a little girl was E-Man, shirtless, riding his mastodon. Loved the 80s. Not retail but a restaurant. I was working as a waitress, and a woman stopped me as I was passing her table. She told me she got a rip in her stockings from one of our chairs. This was according to her 100% my fault, because I did not warn her about our chairs. She asked me if I had any clear nail polish on me or anywhere in the restaurant. I told her that I was sorry but I did not. This was to her so very strange. How could we not have nail polish in the restaurant? She got very angry, wanted to talk to someone else who could fix her stockings. I got my manager who also said, "Sorry but there is nothing we can do about you stockings." He got told the same as me, and how can we not warn people about the chairs? This went on for about 10 minutes because she just could not believe that I didn't have freaking nail polish in my back pocket. She accepted her stockings' fate at last, but I got angry looks from her all night. When a woman set down cash on the counter and I went to count it, but she slapped my hand hard because she was looking for the change. What a freaking bee. I am angry for you. Worked at a clothing store. A woman tried to return something she clearly worn, washed and ruined. We told her there was no way we could accept it and she demanded to speak to the manager. Manager came out, told her the same, and this woman left screaming that she hoped the store would burn down with us in it. I worked with a guy who punched a customer once. He was standing at the register and a customer came in to return a set of tools and literally threw the set down on the counter, causing screwdrivers and tools to fly across the counter and hitting the employee. A friend worked at a really busy McDonald's. And one time a customer kinda threw the money at her disdainfully because I had taken too long to serve her. My friend let her anger get the best of her and threw the change back at her. The customer asked to speak to the manager to complain, and after she told him what had happened, he said that she shouldn't have thrown the money at his employee if he didn't want the change thrown back at her. The woman was outraged and threatened with vague consequences, but the manager was like, "What are you gonna do? Boycott McDonald's? I think the company will survive that hard blow." Bruh freaking though. This needs to become the norm. All the retail fake smile does is make customers like that think their behavior is somehow acceptable when it's not. I used to work at a video rental place, living the dream as a 19-year-old, and a customer comes in and asks if we sell movies. I say yes, so she starts walking along the wall of clearly marked rental movies, pointing at titles they want. I start telling them the ones we have in stock for purchase and the ones I will need to order in. They eventually comes up to the front and begins to pay. I tell them the total, a lot more than the listed rental price, and they get really confused as it's a lot more than they were expecting. I'm in the middle of explaining that they are new releases when it hits me. They don't know this is a rental place. I explain this kindly and carefully and that I have had to order them in. At this point they drop all pretense of niceness and in front of customers and my shift manager give me a look of pure disdain. "You are an idiot," they say. Yeah, well at least I didn't walk into a video rental place and try to buy the DVDs. They roll their eyes and huff out of there. Wish I could say my clientele only got smarter after that, but that would be a lie. Worked at a gas station in the early 2000s. This guy pulls up and tried to pump gas while holding a cigarette in his hand. This is normal in my country, leaving the engine running and smoking. I worked in a couple record stores when I was young, so I've got a ton of stories, but one stood out that applies to your question. We had this one guy, whose last name was a common vegetable. This dude would come in once every couple weeks and go through our import singles and dance sections, find a small handful and bring them up to the counter. But, no, not to buy them. No sir. He would first ask for his hold pile that was around 30 discs. He'd then sort through them, pick out a few to purchase and then have us put all the remaining back on hold. The whole time he'd be doing this, he would not allow you to leave his side. This process took up to 45 minutes. I know, the first question you're thinking is, why even hold them? Put them back out. Well, we tried that. He would come back in and we'd tell him that we put all the hold back out. He'd crab quite a bit, and then go out into the store and re-find them all, bring them back up and buy a few, and place the rest on hold. If we refused to put them on hold, he'd go and hide them in the store. If we followed him around to make sure he wouldn't hide them, he'd browse until we got busy with another customer and then hide them. We got to the point that we'd nearly ignore him and we just threw them in a box that we left behind the counter. He'd come in, and we'd heavily drop the box on the counter and ask bluntly what he plans to buy today. Nobody wanted to be the unfortunate soul that got stuck with him. It was an exercise in temper management. Ugh. Joseph Sweet Potato strikes again. Old lady poked a hole in the last 6 or 7 green peppers we had left. They were already on sale, but she knew we sold damaged past its prime produce for a big discount. I just threw them away and said we can't sell them. It made me so mad. She was a pain in my butt at that store all the time. You have been visited by the source Chihuahua. You will be blessed with good pasta, but only if you comment simmer well. Papa simmer well papa. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.